Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in today. We have a local legend. We're joined by Tim Sisler, Matt Taylor, and we've got Jim Roediger, the man, the legend. This is the man that I joined with as when I got my real estate license, and he's just been very influential and always helpful in my real estate career. And it's just an honor and a pleasure to have you, Jim. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. You want to tell your story? You're literally a living legend. So, yeah. So, about 15, 20 minutes. Hopefully it doesn't go more than that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We might be here for 2-3 hours.
We might be. Yeah. I don't think anybody watched it for 2 or 3 hours.
You never know. Yeah. They can replay it.
Depends how many stories I tell.
Right. You got lots of stories.
I got a lot of stories.
Well, why don't you tell us, let's start with, growing up, where you're from. I know you're from Troy. Well, I'm from Troy.
Right.
Same high school.
Right.
Went to Wittenberg.
Right.
So
right.
Take us down that path. That was a while back, right? A couple of years ago, you were graduating high school.
Yeah. No, I was raised on a farm west of Troy, adjacent to the Bruckner Audubon Center, if anybody's been over that way.
Love that place. Go bridge jumping over there off the...
Grew up in that woods, actually. Nobody was there.
Did you go bridge jumping off a Horseshoe Bend?
Never did that.
No?
No.
You're missing out.
People died doing that sometimes.
Really?
I used to drive a tractor down Horseshoe Bend. In fact, I was down there not too long ago. I went up Horseshoe Bend, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Our farm doesn't look the same when I was there. But anyway, raised on a farm. Went to Newton for 3 or 4 years, and then I wanted to play football. And so we made arrangements that I went to Troy. And so that was a great experience. And we had, not to dwell on football, but we had a great team. I did not play with Bob Ferguson. He was a senior when I was a freshman. And at that time, freshmen didn't play varsity. But I did play with 2 All-Americans who went to the NFL eventually.
Archie Griffith? Or who was it?
Archie Griffith.
Wasn't there a guy who went to Ohio State?
Well,
Bob Ferguson.
There was a number of people who went to Ohio State, but I'm referring to Tom Myers, who was quarterback, broke all of Otto Graham's records at Northwestern, and Tom Vaughn, who went to Iowa State and was second in that conference to Gale Sayers during that time frame. He ended up, back there, both played with the Detroit Lions. Tom Vaughn played for 5 or 6 years with the Detroit Lions. But, we had a great team there, came to Wittenberg, was lucky enough to be on a couple of national championship teams there. We lost 1 game in 4 years.
That's pretty impressive.
Not because I was there.
Yeah,
but
and what position did you play?
I was an end, flanking back, played a little defense. But I lettered 4 years, and but we had a great team. And in fact, it's very interesting. I played my freshman year. I played with there were some great seniors, and one of the seniors was Gary Tranquil, who was our quarterback, who went on and was head coach of Navy. Had a great career in college football, as well as fell by the name of Musselman, whose son now is the head coach, basketball coach at Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
And Musselman went on and was the head coach. He was smart as a whip, good-looking guy. And I can tell a lot of stories about him, but he went to Ashland and had a terrific career as a basketball coach at Ashland, even though he was a football player. He always wanted to play basketball, but he wasn't quick enough and tall enough. Then he went on and became the head coach of Minnesota when Ohio State and Minnesota got into a big fight. And it was kind of a renowned type thing that happened. But he went on and coached in the NBA for a number of years, and passed away, unfortunately, a number of years ago. But his son kind of picked up that basketball Mantle, and now he's the head coach at Arkansas. So that's kind of interesting.
That's amazing.
That coach that you brought up, was he, Tom, the quarterback, was he the one that just passed a couple of years ago?
No, that was Tom Vaughn.
He was the head coach for Northwestern football.
No, he wasn't a head coach. He played it. He played at Northwestern, broke Otto Graham's records as a quarterback.
Okay, gotcha.
Tom Vaughn played at Iowa State and was an All-American and was drafted by the Detroit Lions.
Wow, so you come from a caliber of champions.
Well, anybody from Troy.
That's right. Go Trojans and Tigers.
Tigers. So it was fun. We had a good time. My dad started our real estate company in Troy. I opened a branch here in 1971 and had got my broker's license. And basically, I was about 23, 24 years old and very naive. And I can imagine the 23 or 24-year-old coming into this community now and opening a real estate office and going to compete with, the Link Helmuths, and at that time, Joe Denny, which is, she passed away a number of years ago, but there was some real strong competition. In fact, I had one of the brokers stop by after I opened an office. We bought a building out on East High Street, and he came in one day, and I'm sitting at my desk, and nobody else was there, and he said, I'll tell you what, if this doesn't work out for you, you can call me. And I thought, you don't know who you're talking to. But
what a generous offer.
Yeah, it was a great.
What was your major at WIP?
Business.
Did you know that you were going to go into the real estate business?
No, I really wanted to go into small business. And the head of the business department at that time was approached by a couple in South Charleston who had a small manufacturing business. They manufactured wood pallets, did specific construction for packaging, wood packaging for the military at that time. Vietnam was going on. Mm-hmm. And we sold a lot of material to Frigidaire, which was huge in Dayton at that time. Chrysler Air Temp, International, of course. So I really learned a lot about running a small business and the manufacturing process, hiring, keeping employees, that type of thing. And this couple did not have any children, and the plan was that Judy and I had gotten married, had our first son at that point, and they became our third set of parents. Well, we didn't need three sets of parents. We already had two, and that was probably enough. So it became wonderful people, but we finally said, no, we're not going to do this. So we moved back to Troy. I became manager of the Troy Lumber Company at that time, got my real estate license with my dad, and in fact, sold enough that time qualified to take the broker's test. I thought, I'm going to do that. It'd be crazy for me not to. I might need it. Became real close friends with a young attorney in Troy at that time, and we did a number of crazy type stuff. We started a taxi business and shallow well drilling company and all kinds of stuff. And we were approached, and I was approached again by the couple who I worked for in South Charleston. And they said, our health is not good. We need to sell our business. So in talking to my buddy, the attorney, he said, let's buy it. We didn't have any money. He said, no. So we came back to South Charleston. Judy and I moved back to Springfield. He moved to South Charleston. And we ran that business again for 3 years. We doubled the size of it. At that point, he was the attorney for the High Senate and had a real strong connection in Columbus. And we finally decided after about 3 years, I was starting to get involved in selling some real estate, even in the South Charleston. I had a guy come in one day and said, because I put a sign out, Roediger Realty, in the front of the building. And he came in one day and he said, I've got a little farm out south of town. Did you come out and we want to talk about selling it? So I go out to this farm, 450 acres.
That's a little farm.
1 mile lane. I'm driving back this land, but this is something.
That's
So, but we sold it, and which had a lot of interesting stories with it, but sold it. And at that point then, I decided to maybe sell out to my partner. We had a cross purchase agreement thing. So I sold out to him, and that business is still in business. It's Buckeye Wood Products. They're huge. They've done a lot of work with Honda over the years. Been very successful for him, and it's quite an operation. But we were kind of the start of all that. And so anyway, Judy and I liked Springfield. We probably should have moved to Dublin at that point because Dublin was very small. But we liked Springfield, and so we opened a small real estate office, and here we go.
Yeah. So in regards to the real estate, if you were to give one bit of advice to somebody who's just starting their real estate career right now, what would you tell them?
I'd say come to Coldwell Banker Heritage.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you why.
What's the benefit of that?
The benefit of that is training.
Yeah.
It's dominance in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you immediate strength.
Sure.
But certainly the educational process is vitally important. And one reason we sold our company to Coldwell Banker Heritage was, number one, they're good people. Number two, they're honest. They've built a terrific business. Heritage in Dayton for years and years was the dominant residential real estate company in the Miami Valley.
Well, Ron Sweeney's incredible. He's very, very intelligent.
Yeah, and he works hard.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be on the podcast next week.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good. But he's got a great story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to him for a year and a half before we decided to do this. But the key was for a small real estate company, or even a medium-sized real estate company, you cannot compete with this. You cannot, in this world that we live in, with technology and the investment it takes. We weren't going to make those types of investments as far as the technology, the equipment, the recruiting posture. And particularly at my young age, it was difficult to attract young people because the question always came up, how long before you retire?
Yeah.
Because,
I never asked that.
well, you didn't understand.
I just thought more wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. But the key is that if you're gonna sustain yourself in business, particularly in the real estate business, you have to be able to recruit, because for a real estate business, your salespeople basically are your customers, and you have to meet their needs. Even though I've always sold and enjoyed that. So the advice that I would give to young people is hone in your technology.
Join a strong group.
And join a strong group, no matter what it is, and
Sure.
then develop that networking. You have to be able to know people, and that takes time. And you have to build that reputation that you can treat people fairly. And because this business is not what it used to be. It used to be a lot simpler. I wouldn't say it was easier. In many ways, it was easier. But in today's world, with the technology and the legalities and what you have to go through as far as financing is concerned, you need to learn those skills. If you don't learn those skills, then you're not going to be successful. As I always said to all you guys was, if you could deal with frustration on a daily basis, you'll be successful in this business.
Isn't that the truth?
Because it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Sure.
And I'm still, since I've slowed down as far as management's concerned, I'm still selling. And I'm still using those skills, but it's tough. It's, the processing phase, the negotiation phase, working through the inspections. People say, well, I can sell my own house. Yeah, you can find a buyer. But are you going to process? You're going to process? You're going to get them financed? How much time are you going to waste? Some people are very easy, and sometimes it can be very easy. But other times it can be exceedingly difficult. And if you don't have those skills to hang in there, negotiate, and understand the system, and know who to call to solve some problems, it's going to be twice as hard for you. So, building that network that you need to have to sustain yourself over the long term. This is the long-term commitment that you make. And if you don't do that, then it becomes very challenging.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, I had to take those classes. I joined Coldwell Banker immediately. I sat down with you and Shannon at the time, and I was blown away just with the amount of technology you guys had. The training was amazing because I knew I'd taken the classes at Clark State, but I knew that wasn't enough. How am I going to write a contract? How do I properly negotiate these things? How do I stay legal? So then I drove up to Beaver Creek, took all those classes, and I felt like I had at least 2 years of experience by then.
You have to understand that 95% more than any of your customers will ever know about this business. And so that confidence level, it's extremely important, even though a lot of times you don't feel confident. And but that just takes time. Takes time, and that knowledge base that you have to develop and maintain, and the education thing is getting tougher. I renewed my license, and of course, when you get a certain age, you don't have to take all 30 hours. You take 9 hours. But to keep your broker's license, it took another 3 hours of broker information. Do I need that? No. Do I want it? I've always had my broker's license. Sure. No. Really. The average client doesn't say, well, are you a broker? They don't ask you that. But I think just from, it's just like being a CRS, certified residential specialist, you see that designation. The education opportunities with that is unbelievable. Do I use it? No. Has anybody ever asked me about it? No. It costs a couple $100 a year to keep that designation. Why do I keep? I don't know. Maybe I won't renew it next year. But you just don't know. So that kind of goes with it. But great career.
And you're going on 50 years now? Over 50 years?
Who's talking to me?
I think it's 50 years. I think you crossed the threshold, right? 1971?
No, actually, I got my license in 1966.
Oh, 55 years. Wow.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you look at the success of Coldwell Banker, of the company that you started in Springfield? Does it ever surprise you when you just sit back and look? And I started about the same time Tim did, and it was still Roediger, and you just transitioned to Coldwell. Right. And you stop and look at that point, and now you look at the brokers today and just see the amount of successful agents and how many agents we have. And to me, it's just shocking to kind of look at that and see how.
Well, I'm very proud of the success because I hate to sell Ron a pickle. But I knew that because after you compete in this small market with a lot of our associates, our clients that are our competition, I knew that in knowing them very well, because you constantly watch your competition, and it was always good competition, even though a lot of times we gnashed our teeth and they gnashed their teeth about us, I'm sure. I can think of a couple of things that we did that they weren't too happy with. But I knew that if, with knowing Ron, getting to know him, and knowing the business that he has and the strength of his staff, and that there wasn't a way that anybody could compete with that. So I knew that once that egg was cracked, that the business would get dramatically better. And, you know, the business has been very good to Judy and I, and Springfield has been very good to us. But I knew that there was the potential was dramatic. I don't know how to answer your question or not. There's your question.
I think so. Yeah.
How many when you got started back in 19? So you started in 1971 here in Springfield,
Right.
And then you came back in the business, what, 87?
Well, it was interesting because about the mid, I can't remember the time frames, but we had merged with a company called Engel Realty, which was also fairly dominant in this community. Very aggressive. So I got to know the other broker really well, Don Engel. And, you know, we'd have lunch. And so we tried a merger. And we went through that process. My dad wasn't too enthused about it because he was still operating our Troy office. And, but we merged. We had 5 offices and 60 people.
Wow. What year is that?
Mid-'80s. Then interest rates went through the roof.
How high did they go?
15, I think, was the most. I used to pray for 8% interest.
Oh yeah.
That would be
They can
perfect.
lock in at under 3%.
That would be-
Yeah.
Because if you had 8% interest, then, you know, CDs and savings rates would be up. And 8% interest, you know, at that time, mortgages were very reasonable, even at 8% interest. But so anyway, we merged, developed that business, and he and I said, "Hey, this is, you know, interest rates are high." He was very uneasy, smart as a whip guy. So we dissolved that company. We sold our branches to our managers, one of which is Market Square, and that was the name of the company we developed, was Market Square. In Urbana, Dennis Van Hoos was one of our managers. But anyway, we sold that, sold our local business to a competitor, which I won't get into because he didn't do anything with it. But so he shut us out for 5 years, so I was shut out. So at that point, I did commercial and farm work, and was with Vaughn Realty, which was a good experience. At that point, I sold the largest farm in Ohio. Could be still the largest farm ever sold in Ohio. 15,000 acres in Madison County to Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. I had done some business with them the prior year. In fact, a couple of years before then, because I got to know the people there out of Chicago, and they became interested. We heard about this farm. The farm was owned by Sawyer, who owned the Cincinnati Bengals. It's kind of interesting because when Procter & Gamble was started and became very, very, very successful, there was a number of the executives bought farms up in Madison County. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. But the 400 acres that I talked about initially was I sold to a Procter & Gamble executive who had been retired. But anyway, that process took 2 years, and was a fascinating experience, to say the least.
Was it the biggest commission check you ever got?
No, because we negotiated the commission.
Lesson number one.
Yeah. In fact, they tried to screw us out of it, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah. And that's a good lesson, too, because I always kept a daily log of what I did and who I talked to. If it wasn't for that daily log, they'd have blown us right by. They wouldn't have paid us commission.
So you write down all of your stuff when the
I did at that time, yeah.
daytimer?
Now you have emails and you have texts and so forth.
Well, dot loop, you can even communicate through dot loop now. So
it was, but I had, I had who I talked to, when I talked to them, what the conversation was about, just about that simple. So I said, look, there's a lot of money on the table. I could prove that how involved I was, and I was a procuring cause of this whole event. And they finally acquiesced, and the commission was negotiated. But I don't think that was the largest of ever.
Did they not sign the agency disclosure?
We didn't do agency disclosure.
So was that the largest property you've ever sold? I mean, that's huge. I know that I know
15,000.
Yeah, I know of cities that have been created on 100 square acres.
Yeah,
15,000 acres. That's insane.
it was insane.
What portion of Madison County was that? What percentage would you say?
Well, there was a little in Clark County. You go down around South Charleston, over towards London, even up north. Madison County has wonderful farmland.
Yeah.
And I think there was a 3,000 acre farm, and there was a 4,000 acre farm, 3,000 acre farm, but it was all packaged. And the company that owned it, the corporation that owned it, also did. They had a management company set up to farm. So Metropolitan hired them to farm that farm.
Mm.
Now, I don't know whether that whole package is still together or not, whether Metropolitan eventually sold some of that off. And, it's tough to track because they use holding companies. And you don't know who's on the first and what's on the second. But
so you called the owner of the Bengals and said, "Hey, I want to dot loop you this document. Can you sign it for me?"
Yeah, of course not.
You got to come and see me at the game on Sunday, and then I'll sign the listing.
We could have done that, but it was interesting. Because John Sawyer was quite and his family was, as I understand it, was one of the major owners of Procter & Gamble. So that's where a lot of this money came from, and they invested in these farms because they were. And Metropolitan bought it because they were. This is all my interpretation. This is not facts. So if somebody comes back and says, "Well, that's not right," this is what I interpreted. The Metropolitan used these farms at that time to store money, basically to diversify.
Shell Corporation.
Cash. They ran it. It was all above board, but they would have so much money coming in because of premiums and so forth. Who knows how many people paid life insurance policies at that time, or still do. So they had to have someplace to put this money and in assets that would give them some sort of return. So this was a good place to store. I can't even know what the whole total package was at this point, but it was a big number.
Well, Joe, I got one more question for you. I don't know about these guys, but I'm sure you saw that Springfield was recently rated number 3 on the hottest real estate markets in America right now. What do you think caused that? What do you think made Springfield so hot right now?
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal that put that article out.
Well, first of all, this is a very conservative part of the country.
Okay.
So we have a lot of people who are sitting tight. It's when I grew up, we used to say the rabbits used to sit tight on cold, rainy days. Well, people don't know what's going to happen from the economy, politics, whatever. So my interpretation is, and with the COVA, people are sitting tight. They're not thinking about moving, or if they are thinking about moving, they want to find something before they make that decision to sell where they are.
Sure.
And we're running into that all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's part of it. But it's, people are sitting tight all over the country. I mean, you read
It's good to know that
we also have a really good cost of living compared to, and we're in proximity to Columbus and Dayton, which has a really high cost of living. So, it's people are able to live here, pay a lot less, and commute, for the job. So I think that makes Springfield really attractive.
Exactly.
100%.
Have you ever seen a market this exaggerated?
We should pray for this. I pay 8% interest.
Right.
I mean, we used to hear about California, people lining up, and I think, I've never seen that. But it's no, I've never seen anything close to this. It's just amazing. That's all you can
I don't really like working in this environment. I prefer a more balanced market. I think it's better for everyone. This is a little bit hyper competitive.
Right. This pendulum will swing too,
Yeah.
I mean, as a smaller company, we used to carry 250, 300 listings. Signs were always a problem. They still are, but I mean, we used to have that kind of volume as a sales inventory or in the warehouse, so to speak. And today, what do we have? 30 listings as a company?
I don't know. We've got probably 30 ourselves.
Yeah.
It's pretty bizarre.
It's bizarre. It really is. And this will swing, and this will change. And then you'll wish for this market again. But it's going to take a while. I don't really see this changing too much in the next 12 months.
I think the Fed locked in the interest rate at 0% until 2023.
Yeah. Wow. We have to be careful with inflation and the money that's being dumped into the system. But real estate's a great place to put it.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see it being a gentle swing or more like the crash that we experienced in 2008? Do you think it's going to be dramatic?
It's part of it will be gentle. But I also read this morning's Wall Street Journal about them generating more what we used to call subpar mortgages opportunities, and where to get people into I don't want to call it subsidized housing, but low-income housing, they got to start making loans again, which got us into trouble, in 2006, 2007.
Sure.
Where people were buying things that they could buy, but they couldn't sustain it.
Sure.
And that's the thing that really worries me, that we start seeing that again.
Me too.
And, when you used to go out and sit down with people and they say, we've got to sell. Well, how much do you owe? Well, we owe X. Well, your home is not worth X, it's worth Y. And unless you have some way to bridge that gap, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, because the strength of the buying market wasn't there at that point.
Sure.
So, and plus those houses were inflated compared to the marketplace. Yeah. So I can see that as a bubble, but I don't know. It's
I hope it's not as bad as it was.
That was really bad.
Yeah.
Well, you look at our market, for example. We have not really appreciated. I've studied Columbus, and you look at all this appreciation. We've been flat, and now it's just finally picking up steam. And now we're setting comps, and now we're able to. I sold the property on Rutland for $130,000. The guy said, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
Then your friend came out that you play poker with or whatever, and he said, "Yep, worth $130. Good." Yeah, that's a good man. And we're seeing that appreciation because we're having Columbus buyers and California buyers and New York buyers coming in. They're paying cash. $130,000 for a house. Are you kidding me?
Well, also,
you can't get a cardboard box in California.
Yeah, we're seeing Springfield actually invest a lot more money into neighborhoods that you wouldn't see, that you see they need some love.
Sure.
And then, we have people who are investing in neighborhoods themselves and kind of making these neighborhoods beautiful again. And people are building brand new builds in neighborhoods that have kind of started to fall. Yeah. So, we're seeing people kind of help the market. And I don't know if it's really going to hurt Springfield that much.
Well, I think Springfield has a good future. I'm not. What worries me about Springfield is the downtown empty office space.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not unusual. Columbus worries about the same thing. New York obviously worries about the same thing. Dayton worries about the same thing.
Sure.
So I think the direction, even though we're attracting some manufacturing businesses, I think Springfield's going to have growth, but it's going to be maybe in a little different direction than it has in the past.
Sure. What do you think should happen with the mall? I think they're shutting it down next month for good. it's gone.
That's a tough one. This past weekend, our grandson plays on like an AAU basketball team, high school team. And so basketball, like volleyball, like soccer, like that you guys are just starting to get into. But if you go up to Polaris Shopping Center, north of Columbus, the sports company who looked at the Springfield Mall, I think, to develop that as a sports complex, they bought the Sears home store up there, and they developed it into basketball courts or volleyball courts. It's a beautiful facility. You got like 8 basketball courts. They had kids all over the place. Well, those kids are coming in, those families are going in, buying stuff, using the restaurants and so forth. But Springfield, I don't think, can do that because they don't have the volume of people that could support that type of thing. Even though, you go up to the tennis complex north of town where they play volleyball. If you've been up there on some weekends during that season, the place is loaded with people. I mean, they're parked down on the road.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the idea, but not on that scale. And so I don't have, if I had an answer, I'd be out there willing to deal with it. But, I mean, it's well located and it's been well cared for, basically. But Springfield's not alone in that situation.
No. With the advent of online commerce, a lot of malls are experiencing this, and we're just part of that. So,
right. And it's frustrating. I mean, if you have somebody in from out of town and you're showing them Springfield and you're trying to encourage them to buy here, they'll say, "Where do you shop?" We used to be able to take them out past the mall. We go to Sears and we got Fairfield down the road. We've got Tuttle Crossing in Columbus and so forth. Now you say, well, we got Fairfield down the road because but that's not unusual in this market.
Sure.
Or in any market, I guess.
Well, and Upper Valley is actually not a bad street to be on because there's on average 12,000 cars that drive down that road every day.
Yeah.
So whatever goes there is going to more than likely thrive and hopefully bring back some sort of industry to that area.
Maybe manufacturing of some sort.
Sure, create some jobs.
But there's a lot of competition out there for those companies. So I don't know. I wish I had an answer.
Hopefully we can get good companies to come in here, not like E.F. Hutton that come in here.
Oh, yeah.
What a bust. I mean, I heard that was on the foreclosure list.
Oh, sure.
So I've got someone in mind that thinks they're going to buy that place.
Yeah.
I think we all know who.
Well,
maybe not. I won't say.
When that came for sale.
That's a beautiful building, that Credit Life building.
Beautiful building, and at that time it was in great condition. The insurance company that bought Credit Life, I forget what kind of number they had on it, but I know the buyers bought that for like $375,000, including that warehouse over behind St. Regis.
Man, I would have bought it for that.
Plus all the equipment in there, all the desks and everything.
Wow.
But the buyer had somebody put in there for 3 floors at that time. And so they could rent it cheap, sustain it. But that building at that time, utilities and taxes were like $900,000 a year. So as you thought about that, and the building was in great shape, to invest in that type of risk without a definitive plan on what you're going to do with it, and have that kind of overhead looking at you, I don't know. Good luck.
Is it because it's all glass? Is it just not efficient, or?
No, I'm sure that there's some maintenance issues there. I don't know. I know nothing about it. But when E.F. Hutton guy came in, he called us and said, "Hey, I need some help renting this." So we went through it. I said, listen, with all due respect, if you rented this place for nothing, I couldn't get people in here. So you better find somebody else to represent you. And they have, they give you a desk and all that kind of stuff.
I think if our brokerage continues to grow at this level, we may have to buy it
That'd
for
be
Coldwell
good.
May
Banker.
have to. Yeah.
The Coldwell Banker
We'll have to ask
buildings,
Ron Sweet.
Yeah.
Next week.
Absolutely.
Well, good.
Good.
Well,
Jim, we appreciate
My pleasure.
you being on here today. It's really a
I can talk for
pleasure.
hours.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, Jim, tell them how do they get a hold of you?
If they want to sell their house or sell their 15,000 acre farm, how do they?
Yeah, anybody with a 15,000
Anybody
acre
can
farm.
Just Google me and my number's easy to get.
206-1554.
That's it.
Oh man.
You got it. Call me. I need the business.
Jim, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Jim,
Matt.
thank you.
All right, guys. Till the next episode, the legend. If you guys want to get a hold of Jim and sell some real estate, here's the man.